Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Heidi from My Reading Life, and I'm here today to film a tag video. Now, I am notoriously bad at doing tag videos, and so to all of you who have tagged me in any kind of a tag video, I apologize. I do mean to do them, and then I just never get around to it. But I was tagged recently in an original tag, and I wanted to make the time to do this tag because I think it's really interesting, really thought-provoking questions. So this is the hashtag Dear Publishing tag. This is an original tag that was created by Grace over at Books and Cooks, and I will leave all the information down below in the description box, and I encourage you to go check out her channel. She's doing some really great videos, and she does fun vlogs, and I really love her content. So, and this is a very, very thought-provoking tag, as I said, so here we go. Let's just get into it. The first question is, what is something you would like to see publishing do more of? And for me, something I've been thinking about a lot, particularly since I've been reading for the BookTube Prize and I've been reading for the last 2 years, specifically in the nonfiction category. I would really like to see publishing do a better job of fact-checking nonfiction. Like, I was under the impression for a long time that if it was nonfiction, then it would go through a fact-checking process. And I have subsequently learned that no, in fact, that is not the case. And particularly for books whose authors, not so much for memoir, but for other types of nonfiction, narrative nonfiction, or other straightforward nonfiction, like I would really like to see publishing spend some resources on making sure that the information that's presented in those nonfiction books is in fact accurate. And there's always going to be a mistake made here or there, and that's fine. But sometimes the mistakes made are like big things that would be easily checked by somebody if they were just looking. So that is something I would like to see publishing do more of and spend more resources on. The second question is, what is something you would like to see publishing do less of? And this has to do, for me, a real big pet peeve of mine is misleading marketing. So when the jacket copy does not match the contents of what's inside the book. So that can either be the descriptions that are written, the blurb on the back, or the summary on the front flap if it's a hardcover, or if it's nonfiction, it's the subtitle, right? And I recently, well, not recently, but within this past year, was burned by a nonfiction book that had a subtitle that I think did not reflect what was on the inside of the book. And that book was Femina, and the tag, I don't remember exactly what the subtitle was, but it made it seem like you were going to get like an inside look of what medieval women were up to because they had been written out of history. And it didn't really deliver on that promise. Another glaring example from the past year is Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmis. The marketing for this book is so misleading, and it's not even the description or anything, it's the cover itself. The cover art on the American version of that book is very misleading. It makes you think it's like going to be a romantic comedy or some kind of funny book, and the first 75 pages of that book are not funny. They're distinctly not funny. And that book is so misleading. Like, you could pick that up thinking you're going to have a fun beach read, and it's really a lot more serious than that. And I think it does the book a disservice, because if people go into a book with the wrong expectations, they can be disappointed, because it might not be the type of book that they want to read at that time specifically, but it doesn't mean it's a bad book. But if you go in with a certain expectation based on the marketing materials, and then your expectations are not, realized, you can be very disappointed, and that impacts how you feel about the book. So that's what I would like to see publishing do less of. The third question is, what is a trope you would like to see more frequently? And that's something that I've noticed happening more often, and I really love it, and I hope that publishing continues to follow this trend, and that's taking a well-known storyline or a well-known trope and gender flipping that trope. So recently, not that recently, but within the last year, I read The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi, and that book was awesome because it basically takes your typical pirate story and fantasy pirate story and flips it, because the main character, the lead pirate, is a woman. And there's lots of ways in which this story subverts gender norms, and I think it's really fantastic and super fun to read that very familiar story from a different perspective. And I really appreciated what Shannon Chakraborty was doing with that novel. And I would love to see more of that. I think that there is more and more of that type of a thing, and I would like to see that continue. So please, publishing, let's have some more of that. And then a trope, question 4, what is a trope that you would like to see less frequently? And this really comes specifically down to the romance category. This is a trope that I very often see in a romance category or in the romance genre. And that is the trope of a city person goes to the country, for whatever reason, and gets schooled by the country people and comes to realize that country living is like way better than city living. And like, I am a person, obviously, that lives in the country, and I love living in the country. I am a rural girl at heart, but like, I don't think that it's perfect, and I don't think that everybody should want to live in the country, and I don't think that it's, like, the best people live in the country and like only good people live in the country. Like, I hate that sort of generalization of geography, and that, the if you don't like the country, then you're somehow bad. And it's like using generalizations or stereotypes to just sort of lazy storytelling. And so I just think that that's been overdone and overused, and I would just as soon not see that anymore in my fiction. Where a person is from, like, you can have that be part of the story, but don't be lazy and make it be whether or not a person likes the country or the city, that's why they're bad or good characters. Like, to me, that's very lazy storytelling. And then question 5 is, what is a change you would like to see in kids' books? So I don't read a whole lot of kids' books. I do buy kids' books because I have kids in my life that I like to gift books to. And I actually think children's book publishing is doing a fantastic job in diversifying the types of stories that are being published, the types of authors that are getting deals to publish stories. I see a lot more diversity in storytelling in the children's book world than, for example, when I was a kid, like way more. I mean, the fact that there are children's books and middle grade books and young adult as categories, that we have enough books being published at that level to be able to divide it up into these different age categories. That's a wonderful change that I applaud. And then, the stories that are being told in those books are just way beyond and above the types of stories that were told when I was a kid. And so I applaud that. And I would like to see children's book publishing continue in the direction that they're currently headed and become more and more diversified. Then what question are we on? We are on question 6. What is a very specific request you have for publishers? And I have 3. So my number 1 request for book publishing is, please stop pricing ebooks so ridiculously high. Like, it is crazy to spend over $15 on an ebook. Like, I'm just not going to do it. I am cheap, and I'm not going to spend over $15 on your ebook. When I can buy a physical copy for the same price or cheaper, that just makes me mad. That makes me mad that a digital copy would be more than a physical copy. I also think that if a paperback book has been out for 20 years or more and is last was published as a mass market paperback, I don't want to pay you $15 for that. It's been out in the world for this long. The ebook version should be like $3 or $4 for something that was, a genre book that was originally published as a mass market paperback. Like, specifically looking at you, Thomas Lindley Mystery Series by Elizabeth George. I would love to read that as ebook on my Kindle, but I refuse to pay $15 for a book that's been out for over 15 years and I can buy as a mass market paperback used at any used bookstore I go into. No, I'm not doing it. So get your ebook pricing right, people. The second thing that I would like to see publishing do is and I don't know if publishing can actually do this, but just the book world in general, and I think publishing is part of this, all book prizes should be on a calendar year. If you're doing a book prize, you should be doing it for the calendar year that just ended. Whatever the calendar year was that just ended. All book prizes that were issued in 2023 should be for books that came out in 2022. Like, these crappy timelines of, from October to from one year to September the next year. Like, nobody can keep track of that crap. Nobody can keep track of that crap. And then some books that were published like the month after that, like, they're not going to do well in the next year for the book prize. So book prizes, calendar year basis, please. And then the third and final thing that I would specifically request publishers do is publish fewer books per year and spend more money making those books great. Like, I think there are just too many books being published. And I am a book lover, and I don't want to stop anybody from being published, but when there are over 130 books being published every week, and probably more than that. I mean, I'm only basing my numbers on what I hear on the Book Ride podcast, and they're pretty tuned into publishing. But it's just ridiculous. Like, who could possibly pay attention to all those books? And I just feel like so many books get lost in the cracks because they're just, it's a fire hydrant. Somebody opened the fire hydrant and the water is coming. That's what book publishing is like. And I feel like we could have better books that were better marketed and better edited and all that stuff if we had fewer books coming out every year. Like, we don't have 130 movies coming out every year, right? I mean, every week we have maybe one movie coming out per week. And I know they spend a lot more money making a movie, but I just feel like part of the reason why authors don't get paid very much is because there's so many books coming out all the time, and publishing is like spreading its dollars out too thin. So that's probably a controversial opinion, but that is my opinion. And so those are all the questions for the hashtag Dear Publishing tag. Thank you, Grace at Books and Cooks, for tagging me in your original tag. I would like to tag some of my buddy reading friends to do this because I think you would have interesting responses to these questions. So I am tagging Doris at Aldi Books. I am tagging Britta Bowler. I am tagging Karen over at Run Right Reads, and I am tagging Karen at The Roving Reader. So you four ladies are all tagged. Please do not feel pressure to do the tag if you don't have time. I know how that feels. But if you are interested and think these questions are interesting, please do the tag. And I hope you're all doing well and finding some great books to read. I will talk to you later.